Okay, we're going to start with these notes, which is the yellow ones called Methods for Solving Quadratic Equations. Okay, so this is a review on all the ways we can solve a quadratic. There are 5 ways. We can graph it, factor it, solve it by square roots, complete in the square, or quadratic formula. So we're going to need to know or remember how to do all 5 of these. So this one is a quick review on all of those methods. Okay, so we'll start with graphing. All of these methods are going to use the same function that's up here on the top. So I want to graph this function, x squared plus 6x plus 5. So the function is in standard form. Let me blow this up. The function is in standard form, and if you remember, if the function's in standard form, I can find my vertex by using the formula negative b over 2a. That gets the x value, and then to get the y value, I plug that in, and that's called f of negative b divided by 2a. So that'll help us get the vertex. So we'll start there. So go ahead and find your vertex. So that will be, to get the x value, that will be negative b over 2a, which is negative 6 over 2 times 1. Negative 6 divided by 2, that gives me negative 3. So in my vertex, the x value is going to be a negative 3. I plug that negative 3 back in my function, so I'll get negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 5. So I'll solve that. I get negative 3 squared is 9. Plus 6 times negative 3 is negative 18 plus 5. 9 minus 18 plus 5, that's a negative 4. So I'll start with my vertex. That's at negative 3 and negative 4. So I'll plot that. That is that point right there. Okay, so we know if we get the vertex and the 2 roots, it's easy to graph it. Now we're solving. These are 5 ways to solve. That means the whole point of this is to find those 2 roots. So the easiest way to find the 2 roots with this function when I look at it is to factor it. I could pick some x's and plug it in, but waste of time when I know I can easily factor it. So if I factor this expression up here, I'll get x plus 5 times x plus 1 equals 0. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 plus 1 makes 6. Set each one of these equal to 0. I know that x will be negative 5 and this x will be negative 1. So at negative 5 is one root and at negative 1 is the other root. There's my function. And the whole point is to solve it by graphing. That means I needed to identify these 2 roots on the graph. So my solution is going to be negative 5 comma negative 1. And since it's a solution, not an ordered pair, we put it in the curly braces. Okay? So that's a review on solving by graphing. The next one we're going to solve by factoring, which we did it up there, but we're just going to do it again down here. So I'll write my function, x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0, and solve it by factoring. That means I need the 2 factors, and that was x plus 1 times x plus 5. Now I know that I need to take each factor, set it equal to 0, so I'll do it like this. X plus 1 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0. Solve it for x, subtract 1. I get x equals negative 1, and subtract 5. We get x equals negative 5. So again, same set of solutions. -5, -1. Same function. Just a different way to get those roots. All right, next one is, if I'm going too fast, pause and finish. But the next one is solving by taking square roots. We've done this a lot. I think y'all are getting really good at it. So we'll see what we can do. Can we solve this function, x squared plus, 6x, not 5. X squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. I want to solve it by taking square roots. If you notice, this function has this bx term, this x to the first power. You can't take the square root of that. So, cannot solve by using square roots. Okay, this is why there is an x term. Okay, and that's that 6x. You can't take the square root of that. All right, so next method is completing the square. I know that's y'all's favorite, but it's been a while, and so you need to remember how to complete the square. So let's go ahead and refresh ourselves because you're going to use it again. So the function x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. And the first thing when completing the square is to move this 5 over to the right. So I will subtract 5 on both sides. And I get x squared plus 6x. Then we left the space here, plus something equals -5 plus something right there. And so we had to fill a number in there in order to complete the square. On the left, I want a perfect square trinomial so that we can easily factor it and take the square root. So if you don't remember, that was your b divided by 2 squared. That's that value. So in our case, that's 6 divided by 2 squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Squared makes a 9. So I'm going to add 9 on that side, and I have to add 9 on the other side because it's an equation. What you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So then on the left side, I'm going to factor, and I get x plus 3 squared equals 4. And now the left side is a perfect square. X plus 3 squared means I have 2 of those. And over here, 4 is a perfect square. I have 2 2's right there. So I can legally take the square root of both sides, and I'll get x plus 3 equals plus or minus 2. And we're not done, so I'm going to move this up here. Okay, so I get 2 expressions. X plus 3 equals positive 2, and x plus 3 equals negative 2. That's that plus and minus we split up. So subtract 3 here, we'll get x is equal to -1. Subtract 3 here, and we get x is equal to -5. So that's that -1 and -5 that we have. Okay? So -5, -1. Same solution, same function, different way to solve. All right, last one. We're going to get the solutions or the roots or the zeros, x-intercepts. Remember, all of those mean the same thing. So we're going to do it using the quadratic formula. The formula is x is equal to -b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Okay? And our function that we had up there was x squared plus 6x plus 5. I'm looking at the top. So that means our a is 1. Our B was 6. Our C was 5. So I'll plug them in the formula. X equals -6 plus and minus square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5, all divided by 2 times 1. Okay, so then we get x is equal to -6 plus or minus the square root of, I have 36 minus 20, 4 times 1 times 5 is 20. 36 minus 20 is 16, all divided by 2. So that's x is equal to, I'll go this way, -6 plus or minus 4 divided by 2. Square root of 16 is 4, and that turns into two expressions. -6 plus 4 divided by 2, and -6 minus 4 divided by 2. And then we simplify those. -6 plus 4 is -2. Divided by 2 makes a -1. And -6 minus 4 is -10. Divided by 2 make -5. So there's your same solution. -1, -5. And I don't have no room. Here it is. -5 and -1. We usually write them least to greatest. Okay? So same function, but these are all the different ways that we can use to solve it. So you will need to keep this paper. My laptop's moving slow, but you will need to keep this paper, especially for completing the square, because that one we haven't done, and I know many of you probably forgot, and you'll use this week into next week. Okay? So watch the next video on the discriminant. Now I'm just trying to end my video.